Good morning and welcome back to the Sunset Homestead. Today is a garden tour day, and you might have noticed that we skipped a week. I went to edit the video and most of it had no audio and a whole lot of it was really grainy footage. I have no clue what happened, but it looked absolutely terrible. So I guess we're just gonna skip last week, and I'm sorry. Okay, so we're in the garden, and I think that last week I was going around and showing you storm damage, because right before our garden tour last week we had some very heavy storms, and for the most part everything did pretty well except the corn. The corn got laid over, and most of it doesn't look like it's going to bounce back. So what we did was we went through, we picked all of the corn, and we canned it this past weekend. That was the major damage from the storm. Everything else seems like it's doing not terrible. You cold? Oh, I like your dress.
I decided for the pink leggings to go under it.
Ah, I think it looks very nice now. Can I hold you? Because you're getting ate up by bugs?
No,
I'm gonna run through it.
I don't want to stop in any of the pool.
Ew. Yuck. Poop. In the garden? Gross. Okay, so watermelon. Right there. Hopefully it'll be ready soon. Watermelon over there. Hopefully it'll be ready soon. We have a small one over here that looks like it's not going to do anything. The eggplants are going crazy. I picked like 40 eggplants off of there this past weekend, and I made ratatouille. My adaptation of ratatouille, and I put it in jars and I put it on my shelf because why not? I have not been able to get through much of the celery, but hey, we've got tons of it, and maybe it'll flower and I'll be able to grow my own next year. I need to pick cabbages because they're starting to get split out at the outside edge. We've got lots of peppers, so here pretty soon we will do all kinds of like pickled peppers and jalapeno peppers. I'm hoping to make some in advance and put them in the freezer and see how they do, because you can buy jalapeno peppers at like pizza places, and I know they have those frozen. This asparagus patch may wind up being the bane of my existence, because there's so many weeds that I can't even see the asparagus anymore. Because, and there's tomatoes everywhere too. Just, Lord, am I polluted with tomatoes. Polluted. The strawberry bed also has a little bit of a weed problem, however not as bad as the asparagus, and I think it's because the strawberries are kind of shading out most of the weeds. There is a giant tomato plant in the middle, and every time I walk over here I can smell this basil, and it just smells so good. It doesn't taste right, but it smells so good.
But because it doesn't taste right because it's cinnamon basil.
Right, it doesn't taste the same because it's cinnamon basil, and it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. And then we've got lots and lots of tomatoes over here. I shouldn't have very many ripe tomatoes right now, just because we picked a bunch of them. Oh, there's ripe tomatoes in there. Something that I knew tomatoes did, but I've never seen it myself. Tomatoes, if you plant the stem super deep, it will grow roots all the way up the stem. I've never seen it because it always happens under the dirt.
Mom?
However,
Mom.
something happened to this tomato plant and it is throwing roots halfway up the vine. And it's pretty cool. So I'm going to turn you around and show you that. Check this out. These are tomato roots. And they're like all the way up the vine. That right there is why you can plant a tomato plant when they're little. You pinch off the leaves and you can plant them really, really deep, and it makes a stronger plant. That's why you can do that, because they're a vine, and they do that. They'll vine out and they'll root all the way along the vine down into the ground. Tomatoes are fascinating and so tasty. I love it. Now, here comes my sad bits. My very sad bits. Guys, my cucumbers are getting nailed by something and they're dying. And I did get, a batch of relish out of. Unfortunately, it looks like what we get from this next harvest off of these cucumber plants is probably gonna be all that we get. And it's not just these over here by the sunflowers. It is also my burpless cucumbers on the other side of the garden. Eric said last night that he thinks that they might be getting nailed by spider mites, and because we don't use chemicals, that's it. It's probably the end of it. And with the way they're looking, these plants aren't going to bounce back. So as soon as we get the next harvest off of these, it will probably be time to just go ahead and pull all of these vines. These are my burpless cucumbers over here on the other side of the garden. They don't look as bad. However, they're really, honestly, not that far apart from the cucumbers on the other side of the garden. There's maybe 25 foot between these cucumbers and those cucumbers. That's not a whole hill of beans, if we're being completely honest. So here is the cucumbers on this side. These are my burpless cucumbers. I only have 2 vines over here. And then if you look, this right here, if my camera will cooperate, there we go. That is the cucumbers on the other side of the garden. I did notice that my tiny little squash plants are finally putting off blooms. So I might get squash this year. Maybe. Maybe. Alright, we still have some beets left in the garden. However, we have been eating roasted beets a lot. There's something wrong with our banana peppers and we don't know what's wrong with them. They start getting rusty before they get ripe, and then they're just wasted. I don't know what to do with those. But our bell peppers are looking pretty good this year. And then of course we've got our tomatoes and potatoes over here.
Mom, can you
Do you hear that, chicken? I don't know if you can hear it, but if you can, that is an egg song. Anyhow, so we've got tomatoes and potatoes. Some of the potatoes are done. So like these over here, these are done. We're trying to let them dry out before we pull the bags and sift out the potatoes. It's just, it works out better that way, but we might not be able to wait for it to dry out because it just keeps raining and I don't want them to rot in the bags, which is possible. We got a whole lot of tomatoes off of the plants this weekend. I made 12 pints of homemade pizza sauce from all of the tomatoes that we picked this weekend. And it's like one of my favorite things to do because it's super easy. Well, the way that we do it. I cheat. I'll be honest. I use the Mrs. Wages little packets. I doctor it a tiny bit, but it's not even undoctored. They're delicious. We have so many of these though. These little cherry type tomatoes. And Antoinette and George will come out here. They'll pick these off of the vine and they'll just eat them. And I will think, oh, we're gonna have so many cherry tomatoes. And then I'll come out to pick them and they'll be like, things are really starting to slow down. We're gonna here real soon start having a lot of bare spots in the garden just because plants are starting to get to the end of it, but we're just hitting tomato season, so we'll have a lot of tomatoes, but a lot of other things we will stop getting a whole lot of, like cucumbers, which makes me sad, but I can always just come out my back door and pick cucumbers off of this guy because he just kind of showed up one day. I don't know how this got here. All right, that's all that we have for you for today. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have a very blessed day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And subscribe if you're not already. And we'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Bye.